Hello YouTube, how's it going? This is the crossover and I'm back with another video. Today I am going to be giving you my updated big board over the NBA All-Star break. So without any further delay, let's get straight into it. Coming in at number 30 on my big board, I have UConn combo guard slash wing Jordan Hawkins. Now Jordan Hawkins is a sophomore that has taken a huge jump for the Huskies this season. A knockdown shooter, shooting right around 39% on about 7 attempts per game this year for UConn. Good defender, big body at 6'5", with a solid wingspan. Just a quality two-way player that I think can provide value for whatever team ends up drafting him, and has a chance to be a decent rotation player at the next level. Coming in at number 29, I have Arizona big man slash forward AZOULAS TURBELIS. Now, AZOULAS TURBELIS is a relatively interesting prospect, right? He's 6'11", a bit older at 21. He's going to be 21 when he is drafted. Doesn't necessarily have a plus wingspan, not necessarily the best of athletes, but a highly skilled player, especially around the post. Decent facilitator for his size, and a guy who offers a bit of floor spacing at that forward position. Now, his defensive limitations kind of hinder him a bit for me. However, his offensive prowess warrants him being a late first-round pick, in my opinion. At number 28, I have G League Ignite wing Leonard Miller. Now, Leonard Miller is still a bit of an enigma. He's a player who entered the draft last season coming straight out of high school with a lot of intrigue, with standing at 6'10", with ball handling capabilities. He was a player with a lot of intrigue. However, he disappointed during the draft combine. It was clear that he needed another season to really hone his skills, work on himself physically as well. And he's impressed so far with the G League Ignite, averaging 15 points and just under 9 rebounds. He's been a force inside while offering some playmaking versatility. Offers some versatility as well on the defensive side of the floor, but is still a bit raw in terms of his perimeter skill set. So that's why he's a bit lower on my big board, but he's a player that I can see definitely rising as the draft cycle continues to heat up later into the spring and early summer. Coming in at number 27, I have Duke forward slash big man KEL'EL. Kyle Filipowski was a highly touted high school player for Duke that has impressed so far throughout the season. He's averaging about 15 points and 9 rebounds, offering some versatility on the defensive side of the floor while having, and again, a versatile skill set on the offensive side of the floor as well. He has a good back to the basket game, is a strong rebounder, and has some shooting upside, but that is still a part of his game that he will have to improve on. He's a bit lower on my board simply because of his limitations around the rim. I think he can get attacked in space, but he's generally a solid prospect that I think could provide value for a team off the bench given his versatile skill set. Coming in at number 26, I have Illinois big man slash forward Coleman Hawkins. Now, Coleman Hawkins is a bit on the older side amongst these versatile big men that I have around this range at 21 years of age when he will be drafted. However, he's 6'10", 225 pounds, a veteran for Illinois that has impressed this season, averaging right around 9 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists on the season. He offers a similar skill set to Kyle Filipowski and TURBELIS in the sense that he is versatile on both ends of the floor. However, he does have some defensive limitations, and the shot, while the form looks solid, there have been inconsistencies with it throughout the season. But I really like his perimeter-oriented skill set, has a solid back-to-the-basket game, and offers some versatility on the defensive side of the floor. So similarly to TURBELIS and Filipowski, I think he can offer, a team with some plus minutes as a backup big man or forward at the next level. Coming in at number 25, I have Xavier combo guard Colby Jones. Now, Colby Jones is a prospect that I really like. I think he's going to be one of the players in this first round that will produce from day one. Just such a solid all-around player, quality defender, 6'6", strong-bodied 6'6" at about 205 pounds. He's a plus shooter with plus playmaking at that combo guard position. Just such a solid all-around player that I can really see having an impact from day one at the next level. And doesn't necessarily have too many holes in his game. Not a player that has a ton of upside. He is going to be 21 years old when he is drafted. However, just a solid player with not too many weaknesses. Plus shooter, plus defender, plus playmaking at that off guard slash combo guard position. Just such a solid player that I really think is going to have a role at the next level for a very long time. Coming in at number 24, I have NC State combo guard TERQUAVION Smith. Now, TERQUAVION Smith is a player that I was very high on coming into the year, had him top 25 on my big board. Last season and entering the season, I thought he was the best returning player in the country. However, he has stagnated a bit, hasn't necessarily made the improvements to his game that you would like to see. I think the playmaking has taken a slight jump. However, generally the shooting and decision making has been extremely inconsistent. He opts to take plenty of difficult shots. When he's making them, it looks great, and when he's not, it typically doesn't look very good, as one might imagine. So as a result, I have to lower him on my big board, and I view him as more of a spark plug sixth man on a team kind of a player rather than a starting caliber guard that I thought he might be, but I still think he has a place in the league with his ability to get hot, especially from behind the arc. At number 23, I have Oregon center KEL'EL WARE. Now, KEL'EL WARE entered the season as a consensus lottery pick. However, because of inconsistent play throughout the season so far, he has fallen to number 23 on my big board. I think he has shown a ton of flashes despite the inconsistent play, given with his prowess around the rim, as well as some shooting upside as far as being a pick and pop player. Also on the defensive side of the floor, I think he's had some really impressive reps as a pick and roll defender, being that big man in drop coverage, sometimes being able to guard both players in the pick and roll, right? And that's something that I really value. And I think this is more of an upside ranking for me. However, I think KEL'EL WARE can definitely return starting level upside. And if a team can get that at number 23, that's a huge win in my opinion. Coming in at number 22, I have Baylor combo guard Keyonte George. Now, I just made a full breakdown of Keyonte George's game, and if you watch that video, I think you can kind of get the sense that I'm a bit lower on him than the consensus, which currently has him right around a late lottery pick. That's just not where I really view Keyonte George. I think he can struggle at times to create space consistently, and given some of his inconsistencies defensively, I think he can, or he has a good chance to almost be kind of like what Johnny Davis was last year, where he's like this incredible, scorer at the collegiate level that relies on a lot of tough shots that doesn't necessarily translate to the NBA level. However, I really value his three-point shot creation. He is a player that I could definitely see rising on my board as the process moves along, and I re-rank these players at a later time, right? However, currently I still view him as like a bench spark plug guy. I think he's a little bit better of a prospect than a TERQUAVION Smith that I had at 2 spots behind him. So I think a solid bench guard is right around where I view Keyonte George's most realistic ceiling being at the next level. Coming in at number 21, I have Indiana combo guard / wing Jalen Hood-Schifino. Jalen Hood-Schifino is a prospect that I really like. Entered the season a bit more cautious on him simply because of the shot. And what you think about Jalen Hood-Schifino, I think ultimately depends on what you think his shot will translate or become at the next level. I personally think that he can be an average shooter at the next level, but still will see some inconsistencies, however, given all that he offers in terms of being a secondary playmaker, a very quality defender, gives you plus rebounding at his position, at 6'6", with a plus wingspan, strong, big-bodied, wing / combo guard. I think given everything else he does well, I think he has a certain floor where he's pretty much going to be giving his whatever team that drafts him value at different areas to where I feel more comfortable selecting him over some of the guys that I have below him. Coming in at number 20, I have New Zealand breaker wing Rayan Rupert. Now, Rayan Rupert is a player more so about his physical profile and his projection and his potential at the next level rather than his production so far with New Zealand, where he has struggled offensively. However, he has a very quality form, and defensively, he's 6'6" with a 7'3" wingspan, which allows him and enables him to cause havoc, especially on ball. So he has a solid form, quality defender, incredible physical tangibles. I see him potentially being a very solid 3-and-D wing at the next level, given proper time and development. Coming in at number 19, I have Kansas wing Grady Dick. Grady Dick is the player that I most recently made an individual video on. So if you want to hear my full thoughts on Grady Dick's game, I suggest you go check out that video. However, just to sum up Grady Dick, extremely good spot up shooter, a bit limited as a movement shooter, not going to be doing too much creation. However, he can offer some plus playmaking off the dribble if the ball is being swung around, right? He's a guy who can attack closeouts and whatnot. And defensively, he offers value as a help defender, however, not much value on ball. So he's more so of a, I've seen people talk about him as a 3 and D player. I think he's more of a 3 rather than a 3 and D player. And I think that limits, his ranking for me. However, I still think Grady Dick can offer value and has a place in the NBA given his shooting. Coming in at number 18, I have Pepperdine wing Maxwell Lewis. Now, Maxwell Lewis is probably one of the biggest risers in this year's class. Came into the year as a late second on most people's big boards, however, has risen to be essentially a consensus first round pick to most people. He started off the year guns blazing, especially from behind the arc, where he has cooled off. However, he still is averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, and nearly 3 assists, with nearly a steal and a block per game. Active defender, especially on ball, where he offers some value, and he offers a lot of 3-point shot creation with some upside as a playmaker. Now, I think the competition definitely does lower his stock a little bit, especially given his recent play. However, Maxwell Lewis, I think, still offers, any team that drafts him, shot making and shooting upside at the wing position with plus defense, and that's a prospect that is pretty enticing, especially right around this range at 18. Coming in at number 17, I have Duke wing DARIQ Whitehead. Now, DARIQ has had a season plagued with injury, and it's taken him a bit to, get readjusted. And it seems like every time he starts to, pick up, and get adjusted, acclimated physically, he faces another injury. However, during the limited time that he has played with Duke, the shooting has been great, especially in conference play. He's a plus 40% 3-point shooter on the season. I still do have some questions about his form, but the shot's been going in. And defensively at 6'6", only 190 pounds, but he's a strong, swole 190 to where he can body up opposing wings and guards physically. So, he offers, some 3 and D, some two-way prowess for whatever team drafts him. And I think whatever team drafts him can also bank on some untapped potential as far as his shot creation. Coming in at number 16, I have Iowa wing/forward KRIS Murray. KRIS Murray is the twin brother of Kings forward Keegan Murray, and similarly to his brother, he's just such a solid two-way prospect. Quality defender, not necessarily the same caliber of defender as his brother. He's a little bit more limited physically, especially in terms of his lateral quickness. However, he's a solid rebounder, averaging about 21 points and 8 rebounds on the season, with about a steal and a block. Active in terms of creating turnovers. Awesome shooter. He's a lefty, more of a spot-up shooter than his brother. Not necessarily the prospect that his brother is, but a very quality player that I think will be a day one rotation player when he is drafted and playing for whatever team ends up selecting him next season. Coming in at number 15, I have Arkansas combo guard Anthony Black. Now, Anthony Black, in my opinion, is one of the safer prospects in this year's class, given that he's just such a solid player on both sides of the floor. 6'7" wing, really a combo. I mean, you can consider him a combo guard, a wing, a point guard. He runs the offense for Arkansas. Talented passer, incredible slasher. I think he's one of the best slashers in this class, and also offers some solid defense. Averaging 13 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists with 2 steals. Just such a solid player overall. I think he cannot be aggressive enough, where there's sometimes where you would like to see him take over where he just doesn't, and he has the capability to do so. I also think the jump shot is a bit of a question, but given how much he impacts the game in almost every single category, I mean, it's hard pressed to find many prospects in this class with a safer floor than Anthony Black. Coming in at number 14 to start off the lottery, I have Gregory or GG Jackson. Now, GG Jackson is the youngest player in this class. He's a player that, again, I made an individual video on, so if you want to know my full breakdown on him, you can go check that out. However, he's a player that is full of intrigue. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of GG Jackson. I do think he lacks a considerable amount of feel and just general touch. I think he's one of the riskier picks in this class. However, just given his size and his skill set, it's a bit hard to necessarily overthink him too much. However, I do think there are genuine concerns with his game. If you were to tell me Gigi Jackson was out of the league at the end of his rookie contract, I would believe you. And if you were to tell me he would be a all-star at the end of his rookie contract, I would believe you. He's just one of those players, and I didn't want to put him too high or too low, so I decided that 14 to start off the lottery, where you're banking on that guard skill set at 6'9", was a fair spot to put him at. Coming in at number 13, I have overtime elite guard Amen Thompson. Now, Amen Thompson is a prospect that I'm very conflicted on compared to the consensus. I know he was generally considered a top 5 prospect in this year's class, and don't get me wrong, I see why. I see the complete appeal. I mean, essentially in almost every part of the game, Amen offers extreme upside as a playmaker, as a point of attack defender, as a rebounder, as a threat in transition, as an absolutely incredible athlete. However, I have to have him this low simply because of how poor of a jump shooter he is. You cannot succeed at the next level being a sub 25% three-point shooter and a sub 65% free throw shooter at the next level. And again, I'm not taking anything away. 6'7", 7'3" wingspan, averaging 16, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, almost 2.5 steals and a block for overtime lead. I just can't see the game translating completely if he's going to be that poor of a jump shooter, and the form is as poor as the numbers suggest. So unless the shooting picks up, I just can't convince myself of putting him at any higher than 13 if he's just going to simply be that poor of a shooter at the next level. At number 12, I have Arkansas guard Nick Smith. Now, Nick Smith was a player that I previously had third on my big board. However, due to injury, specifically this specific knee injury that has limited him to a number of appearances this season for the Razorbacks and inconsistent play when he has played. Now, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt simply because of the rust and the degree to which this knee has bothered him and limited him in terms of playing time this season. However, it's still a concern, and I think the playmaking isn't necessarily what I thought it would be coming into the season. I think that kind of, there's some questions with his position at the next level. Is he a combo guard? Is he a true floor general? Is the playmaking at the level to where you can trust him to be, a full-time point guard, right? I think those are legitimate concerns, and as well as, he has to showcase, that jump shot. I don't think it's a for sure thing that he's going to be a plus shooter at the next level. So, given all these concerns, I still buy him as a talent. However, he has a number of concerns, and with the injuries to his knee, which is again very concerning, I've moved him down to 12 on my big board. Coming in at number 11, I have UCF forward Taylor Hendricks. Now, Taylor Hendricks might be my personal favorite prospect in this class. A freshman, high riser, wasn't necessarily a highly projected pick coming into the season. However, has extremely impressed with his play so far for UCF. 6'9", right around 210 pounds with a 7+ reported wingspan, and is a plus shooter, right around 39% from 3, has a good form, and is an incredible help side defender. I mean, he's arguably probably is the best non-big rim protector in this year's class. I mean, he gives just such an incredible rim protector, offers some point of attack defense. I think that's still an area of improvement for him, and he's not necessarily going to be putting the ball on the floor, but you don't need him to. If he's going to be hitting shots at a 38-39% clip while also giving you plus help defense, and if I believe that the point of attack defense can improve given his physical traits. I mean, we're looking at a potentially high level 3-and-D wing that I think a lot of teams will really covet, and I expect the consensus stock on Taylor Hendricks to improve, as the draft cycle goes along, and especially at the draft combine. Coming in at number 10, I have Ohio State combo guard BRICE SENSABAUGH. Now, BRICE SENSABAUGH is a prospect that I was a bit lower on for a while. I recently got the chance to see him play against Rutgers in person, where he really impressed in the second half, and he's just such a talented shot maker. I think he's one of the best on-ball scorers in this class. Plus shooter, excellent form, big body at 6'6", 235 pounds, really takes advantage of his weight and size to create advantages as a shot creator for himself, and is going to be a plus 3-point shooter at the next level. I think it's fair to have concerns with him defensively. However, what he's going to be giving you as a scorer and as a shooter on the offensive side of the floor, I think he is undeniably a top tier pick in this year's draft. Coming in at number 9, I have the twin brother of Amen Thompson and AUSAR Thompson. Now, AUSAR Thompson, similarly to his brother, they're both 20 years old, 6'7", just like his brother, right around the same weight. However, doesn't have the same wingspan as his brother, isn't necessarily the point guard that his brother is. AUSAR is more of an off-ball wing. However, he is the better shooter, and I think I trust his defense a little bit more to where I think he's a safer pick than his brother. That doesn't necessarily mean he's a plus shooter, but is still an uber tier athlete, and the shot is definitely still a question. But I think it's definitely better than his brothers, and I think it's going to take less to really fine tune it to where he can be a plus shooter. As to where his brother is, it's going to be a multi-year process if he even becomes a plus shooter, if he ever becomes a plus shooter. Whereas AUSAR is more of a wing, and I think he's more of a safer pick. So you combine him being a safer pick with his athleticism, I think that warrants him being a top 10 pick, and definitely a higher pick or a higher player on my big board than his brother. Coming in at number 8, I have Michigan wing JETT Howard. Now, JETT Howard plays for his father. He is the son of former NBA All-Star Juwan Howard, and JETT is just such an incredible offensive prospect at 6'8", giving you plus shooting and some ability to put the ball on the floor. I think his handle is also underrated as well, and I think he has upside as a facilitator. And you put all that in the 6'8" package to where there's not a lot of players with his ability to shoot and put the ball on his floor at his height in this class. And I think defensively that's what limits him a little bit. As far as the next couple spots go, if he was a better defensive prospect, I would have him a couple spots higher. However, I feel that 8 is a comfortable spot to put JETT, averaging right around 14 points. Again, not offering much else outside of, really scoring and some flashes in terms of facilitating, but given his offensive prowess, I think 8 on my big board was an adequate spot to put JETT Howard. Coming in at number 7, I have Dayton big man DaRon Holmes. Now, DaRon Holmes is the one player on my big board where the general consensus will look and give me a side eye. However, I did an individual video on DaRon Holmes because I am that confident in his skill set. I am a big believer in his game and in his overall versatility on both sides of the floor, being able to come up to the level of the ball screen and also be an adequate big in terms of playing in drop coverage. So he's a scheme versatile defender. He's a plus defender, should be the Atlantic 10 defensive player of the year. Offensively, he's a very good post player, has a couple moves that he likes to go to, can attack smaller players, is a solid free throw shooter, and also is a plus playmaker in the post and also out the short roll. So he's just such a versatile player that I think could play in a multitude of schemes, and I think he's going to be the big where he gets drafted and he becomes a plus player, and we all kind of sit back and like, where did this player come from, right? And I think DaRon Holmes is definitely going to be that big this year, and he's a player that I'm a big fan of and I think can be a very quality starting level big at the next level. Coming in at number 6, I have Kentucky guard CASON Wallace. Now, CASON Wallace might just be my favorite prospect in this class. He is a freshman. He's a big-bodied, strong guard, 6'4" with a 6'9" reported wingspan, weighs about 185 pounds, but carries that weight well. Very big-bodied, strong guard, and is an absolutely incredible defender. I mean, his instincts defensively in terms of, picking pockets of guards on ball, such an incredible point of attack defender. Strong, he does a good job of absorbing contact while not fouling, not falling over, can guard players bigger than him. He's a solid rebounder, even offers some weak side rim protection at times at 6'4", and offensively just such a soothing, versatile guard. Is capable of playing on and off the ball, being not only a pick and roll ball handler, getting his teammates opportunities, but also getting himself opportunities, and is continuing to grow as an on-ball scorer. He's just such a solid player to where I don't think CASON Wallace is ever going to be a star, but he just has such a high floor, and I am so confident in CASON Wallace being a very, very quality starting level guard for a long time at the next level, to where I have to put him at number 6, and I trust his floor and his median outcome a lot more than other players, relatively every other player that I've had, below him so far to this point on my big board. Coming in at number 5, I have Villanova forward Cam Whitmore. Now, Cam Whitmore entered the year as a consensus top 5 pick, and I think he's maintained that stock. He has disappointed, not necessarily disappointed, but he has been slightly underwhelming so far his time at Villanova. Granted, he was dealing with a hand injury for the beginning of the season and has been working himself up to speed, physically and getting used to the pace of college basketball, right? However, physically, there's no denying his talent. 6'7", strong body, 225 pounds, a powerful athlete around the rim, good slasher with a surprising handle for his size. Defensively, he has shown some upside as far as being a help defender, and I don't think the on-ball stuff has been perfect, but I think he has had some positive reps there as well. I think the form is definitely a concern. I don't think it's great, and I think that is a part of his game that is definitely a question mark. However, being a big-bodied, strong four with some guard skills and some defensive upside, I think this warrants Cam Whitmore being, the top 5 pick in this year's class and a player with some star upside. Coming in at number 4, I have Houston forward Jarace Walker. Now, coming into the season, I preferred Jarace Walker over Cam Whitmore, and for the same reasons, I do still prefer him. As to where Jarace Walker is a little bit bigger, 6'8", 220 pounds, with a 7'2" wingspan, so he's definitely a bigger prospect. I don't think the handle with Jarace Walker is perfect, but he has shown some flashes, of decent touch, is right around a 40% three-point shooter on the season. I really like the form. I don't think it's perfect. He has a bit of a habit of kind of like leaning back on his release, but I think generally, the hand placement and the mechanics themselves are very solid to where I think he can be a plus shooter at the next level. And just defensively, I mean, he's just an absolute monster defensively, both on and off the ball, to where I really trust Jarace Walker to be a very high-level role player at the next level. And a lot of prospects in this class, if you guys haven't picked up, I don't necessarily see too many players with star upside, so therefore I really value the high level role players to where I feel safe of them reaching that caliber, and Jarace Walker definitely fits that criteria. So as a result, I have him 4th on my big board. Coming in at number 3, I have Alabama wing Brandon Miller. Now, Brandon Miller is a player that I was a bit conflicted on coming into the season. I first watched Brandon Miller during the McDonald's All-American game. That was my first experience with him, where he definitely stands out, 6'9", with a guard skill set. But he was just a bit inconsistent when you really deep dive into his high school film. And so far for Alabama, I mean, he has been their best player. He's been arguably one of the best players in the country, maybe the best player in the SEC, leading freshman scorer in the nation, just an absolutely incredible three-point shooter. Just insane, to where the form is very good. I don't think it's perfect, but it's very good. It works for him. The handle at 6'9", I think defensively he's shown a ton of value in terms of his on-ball defense. He's gotten comparisons to Jabari Smith, to where I think Jabari Smith is still a better prospect. I think Brandon Miller still really struggles in every area, scoring outside of behind the arc, and as a mid-range and mid-range finisher and at the rim, he's very poor. And I think his help defense isn't quite what Jabari was, and I don't think he's quite the on-ball defender that Jabari was, but I really love him as a three-point shooter, and I definitely see him being a high-level role player at the next level. Coming in at number 2, I have G League Ignite point guard Scoot Henderson. Now, Scoot Henderson has been the second best player in this class and will continue to be the second best player in this class. I think the second and first best players in this class are pretty much solidified. There's no changing that. Scoot Henderson, in my opinion, is going to be a low-tier all-star at the next level. He's a player that I recently wrote an in-depth article on for Sports Business Classroom. Scoot is a player that I really like. I think he's an incredible point guard prospect. I don't necessarily think he's a generational point guard prospect. He doesn't necessarily have one elite skill that you point to where you can say this is going to carry him at the next level, right? I think he's a very good point guard. I think he's continuing to grow as a floor general. I think he's really gotten better as a pick and roll ball handler, being more patient, utilizing that snake dribble, probing around and whatnot, freeing opportunities for his teammates. He's not the best finisher in the world around the rim, which you would assume based on his size, but I mean, 6'2", big-bodied, 185 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan. I mean, Scoot is an awesome prospect, absolutely awesome prospect. I think he can rely on his mid-range scoring a little bit too much, and given his minus defense, I think that is a bit of a problem, but I still think Scoot is going to be, I think it's a pretty safe bet to assume Scoot is going to be an all-star player at the NBA level. And at number 1, surprise, surprise, I have Metropolitans center, Victor Wembanyama. Now, Victor Wembanyama, I already did an individual video on him. I don't think there's too much to say about Victor other than just tell you that he's been playing even better. You know, his stats on the season have improved to 22 points, 9 rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal, and 3 blocks per game. I mean, Victor is just an absolutely incredible prospect. Arguably the best prospect since LeBron James. I would make that argument. I think he's on par prospect-wise to LeBron James. I mean, just what he's doing at 7'3", 7'4" is just absolutely ridiculous, and I think he's going to be he's for sure generational talent. The only concern would be injury, but he has done a fair job of maintaining his body, you know, prioritizing flexibility to lower the chances of facing a significant injury during his career. But I mean, Wembanyama is just a one of one, and he is going, if he stays healthy, I think there's no doubt that he becomes a top 5, 6, 7 player in the league at minimum. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about my big board down below. Let me know what you guys agree with, disagree with, and aside from that, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and if you have subscribed, please share the video with a friend. I want to keep growing the channel, keep growing the community that we have here. And again, aside from that, that's the end of the video, guys. Have a blessed day and take care. Peace.